Well, get ready to go back in time. We'll learn how vintage home decor design actually affects our modern looks. Bill met up with Megan Jones at the Furniture Mall of Kansas. First up, the 1930s and the start of shabby chic.
Today we are talking about eras in furniture design and decorating design, going back and throwing back to the 1930s. We're starting right here in the front of the store, which, by the way, is beautifully decorated for the holidays.
Isn't it gorgeous? They did a great job.
It looks amazing walking in here. But let's talk about this era of decorating, what you guys kind of got on display here.
Sure. So the 1930s is a pretty important era for us. It's actually the birth of our company as well.
Okay.
And it's important when you think about 1930s decor to think about what was going on in the world right then. We were right in the thick of the Great Depression, but it's something that we can still find echoes of that time period in furniture and flooring that's popular today, but it's just kind of been modernized for modern day living.
So what makes this setting quintessentially like 1930s in that era?
I kind of call it the birth of the shabby chic.
Shabby chic.
People were making do with what they had. It didn't necessarily match, but that didn't mean that they didn't put together beautiful living rooms. So you'll see a lot of like florals and stripes, and I've got some fabrics here to show, but a way that we're using the florals and the stripes that were kind of quintessential to that 1930s styles, but giving it a little modern facelift, is taking a floral and making it a little bit more painterly, you know, almost like a watercolor kind of artistic. Gives it a more modern spin to it. And then you pair that with a stripe and you get this really nice accent for pillows on a sofa.
Oh yeah.
And then you can pull from any of these colors to get some accent chairs. They don't even have to necessarily be the same patterns. Pull from these colors or these textures to pull in accent chairs, rugs.
Yeah.
And it gives it this cohesive look without having to have a matching set.
And that's kind of exactly what you have on display here, whereas you have the sofa with those floral here on the pillows, like you said, but then your chair over here is a different pattern altogether, and the chair over here.
But it all comes together because the colors all work together and it complements each other without having to match. Another thing that's really popular that's kind of a throwback to that 1930s style, or even before, this can even come from like the Victorian era, are the idea of black and white tiles, especially like mosaics. Normally what you would see in more period homes would be these little hexes, and they could be all white or black and white. So kind of a more modern take on that is actually to follow the same thing but actually enlarge the hexes. So this is something that you can do to kind of have a throwback to a vintage style, but in a more modern and fun take. Some other great things are some of the arabesque and the different diamond patterns, as well as penny rounds. But another thing that they're doing is, instead of just sticking with black and white, you can actually get some of the warmer grays that really pair nicely with the trends of today.
Well, next, decade up, when we check back in with Bill and Megan. Enter the 1950s. It's all about pastels and finding the right color to accent your room. Bill is at Furniture Mall of Kansas learning about the 1950s design.
Here at Furniture Mall of Kansas, you've got a great layout kind of showcasing 1950s style. Take us through this section here.
Absolutely. So this is a great sofa from Bernhardt that is a beautiful example of a throwback to 1950s style. So the really fun thing about a home decor in the 1950s, it was this perfect kind of blending of inspiration from both science and art. So you got a lot of really funky space age shapes, like these boomerang shapes were really popular, but also a sleek, smooth, streamlined style. And this is a customizable piece from Bernhardt, so we have a ton of different fabrics that you can choose for it, patterns for the pillows, all of that good stuff. So you can make this look as 1950s as you want it, or as 2020s as you want it.
Okay.
Some colors that were really popular in the 1950s were more pastels, and we're seeing that come back around, like the light blush colors, the mint, the lighter blues. But a great kind of decorating trio that you could come up with from that 1950s inspiration is to pick a couple of pastels that you really like. Like here we have the light blue and the blush, and then pick one of them to kind of echo in a more saturated, bolder color. So we would pick this light blue and kind of get some accents in more of the darker turquoise to make a really fun, colorful color scheme.
And is that kind of similar to what you guys have done here, where you have the lighter color but then pop in with the darker and pillows?
This would be kind of a true 1950s color scheme. We chose to do something on our floor that would take the 1950s but kind of modernize it a little bit more. And so we're going in all your neutral grays that are so popular right now.
What I want to learn a little bit more about is flooring for this type of setup as well.
Sure. So the inspiration that we're pulling from the 1950s is more of your kind of blonde floors.
Okay.
So something that would have been really popular in the 50s is to do like a 1.5 inch strips of wood.
Yeah.
A lot of the time you would just have oak floors, the skinny strips. So kind of pulling from that same color, people have been going dark floors for so long, and we're starting to see a real switch from that and going back to lighter colored floors. But to modernize it, we're going with thicker planks, and instead of getting into that kind of orangey hue of those light colors, we're going for more of a very natural wood look, or leaning more towards kind of a grayed finish.
So that would kind of help match along with the grays and that more modern look.
Absolutely.
Well, in the next half an hour, they flash forward to Bill's favorite decade to chat about styles of the 1970s. Well, Bill claims to love the 70s, even though the only 70s thing we've ever caught him doing was listening to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Now, back to Furniture Mall of Kansas, where he's learning all about his favorite decor decade.
We have gone through the 30s. We've gone through the 50s. Now my favorite disco era ever, the 70s, right?
Yep.
Are we gonna disco our way through fashion and design for the 70s?
Oh, there are so many things about the 70s that I love. So when we start talking 1970s decor, what's the first thing you think about?
Shag carpet.
Shag carpet, absolutely. So we have some great ways that we're kind of modernizing shag carpet.
So is this legit modern shag carpet?
This is like our modern take on shag carpet. So you still have the longer fibers, and it's really, really soft and plush.
Yes.
But the great thing about what they're doing for these modern shags is there's a lot less maintenance. You don't have to rake it. You know, you can actually vacuum it. And this is a carpet from Shaw that has that R2X treatment that we've talked about before.
Yeah.
So it's still going to repel moisture. It's going to be more stain resistant. So it's a lot less maintenance, but you get all of that great comfort that we all remember from the shag carpet.
But does it come in those nice bright colors that we had back in the 70s?
Well,
too?
we can work on some colors, but I don't know that we're going to get orange carpet this go around.
Okay, well, that looks fantastic, and it's super soft, like you were saying. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's a very luxurious thing to walk on here. Very nice. But let's go over to some of the decor, some of the couches that you guys have over here as well. First off, I love the pictures. We were talking multiple exposures of like Big Ben and scenes around England.
Yes. Yeah, so a lot of things that you can do when you're kind of channeling historic design for your decorating is to pull in some pictures that have some historic character to it. So I always think a little bit more 1960s maybe, but the British invasion, and then here we have Big Ben on the walls. But one of the other things that's great about this setup is in the 1970s, that's when the sunken living room became really, really popular. And so sometimes, you know, they call it the sunken living room. Some people call it a conversation pit. And so that's when those pit groups started to come around. So we have this really great comfy sectional that would fit right into that. And this sectional is actually a great demonstration of kind of a modern take on a 70s color scheme as well. So in the 1970s, we'd see a lot more of the more saturated colors, you know, your mustards, avocado greens. So they've kind of done that with the color scheme on this sectional, except they've gone more navy and kind of toned it down to bring it to a neutral. But then you have just some splashes of more of that mustard color.
So let Megan and the team at Furniture Mall of Kansas help you rethink and redesign your space. For more information, just call 913-839-8654 or go online to FurnitureMallOfKansas.com. You can also stop by the store in Olathe off North Kansas City Road near the Bass Pro Shop. Furniture Mall of Kansas is open until 5 tonight, closed on Thanksgiving, and back open at 10 in the morning on Black Friday with special financing deals.